Steve Moore, the Freedomworks economist right now, who's probably hopeful that nothing gets done. If you have been listening to what Steve's been saying for a number of weeks on this, I saw your op-ed in The Hill that was entitled "The Ridiculous Economic Stimulus." So I don't think you're in the camp of some of these Republicans who are coming around, it sounds like, on some sort of a spending package. What do you say?
Yeah, the advocates of the stimulus have just been consistently wrong for the last 6 months, Connell. You look at how well the economy is doing, and let's face it, I mean, this is an economy that is just soaring much faster than anyone possibly expected, including myself. I mean, we had 33% growth in the third quarter. Right now, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the economy is growing at about 10% in the fourth quarter, which is a blockbuster on its own. Then you look at the unemployment situation. You know, the unemployment rate is 4 or 5 percentage points lower than any of these experts said, and that's without any kind of stimulus. So, and then we got those good unemployment insurance claims today, which even surprised me. You know, unemployment insurance numbers falling, meaning more people are getting into the workforce. We don't need another $1 trillion spending bill. What we need is to speed up the vaccine. There's something absurd and almost obscene that Britain is going to have access to our vaccine before the United States does.
Well, to that point, and this would be the pushback, I think, Steve, to some extent on whether we need stimulus or not, it does seem like it'll be a while on the vaccine. Sure, we're moving fast, but to your point, not as fast as the UK. And it looks like realistically people are saying May, June, maybe by the time, normal folks like us will get a shot at getting a shot, so to speak. Pfizer, a little hiccup here. Shares lost ground late in the day. The Journal has a report they had to cut their vaccine rollout target. So the idea for stimulus would be kind of this bridge that gets us from now, where we are now, until that point where the economy can take off post-vaccine. That doesn't make sense to you?
Look, I think the unemployment insurance benefits that they're talking about, $300 a week plus normal benefits. I have a piece in the Wall Street Journal with my buddy Casey Mulligan of the University of Chicago. We argue that that would actually lose 4 million jobs. That is about 4 million workers would not be employed because they would make more money taking the unemployment benefits than getting a job. That's just stupid. It makes no sense to provide people more money for not working than working. I hate the idea of the aid to the states and cities. That just enables them to stay closed down. I mean, the big story today, as you mentioned, Connell, is that California is instituting these really draconian shutdowns in their economy, crippling their businesses, crippling their workers. They have a rule in Los Angeles that won't even allow outdoor dining for restaurants, and it's 70 degrees in Los Angeles. So, I mean, you got to get the businesses open, and I don't care how big these checks are that the government is writing. If states are shutting down their businesses, you're not going to have a lot of growth.
If you're a member of Congress, though, and you know that, and you know that's going to happen, even if you disagree with it, right? You look at, say, hypothetically, you're representing any state, doesn't really matter, and you look out at the California headline you just mentioned about these ideas that there might be more lockdowns. You say, you know what, Governor Newsom, that's not a good idea. But he's still doing it. So the economic reality associated with it is still there. Then what do you do? Do you vote for some sort of stimulus? And if so, what, if it's not the unemployment benefits? Is there anything in there you could
I've always been an advocate of just, if you really want to give aid to workers and you want to give aid to businesses, then cut the payroll tax. And that's something that would be very clean. You could do it tomorrow. It would put money right in the paychecks of people immediately. It would reward people for working. Unfortunately, Nancy Pelosi took that off of the table. But, okay, I'm going to compromise with you, Connell. If they do a quote, stimulus bill, and it's not something I'm in favor of, but if they do, at the very least, Republicans should insist that the money go to people and businesses, not politicians and governments. And I think that should be the bottom line for Republicans. Don't give money to mayors and governors and city councils. If you've got a problem, give it to the workers and businesses that need the money.
So that PPP money, that would make sense, maybe.
Well, we'll see. I still think it's unlikely that they get a bill before Trump leaves. I've advised him, I told the president, the last thing you want is your final legacy bill is a $1 trillion debt bill that we're going to have to spend, decades paying off. I mean, the economy, what Trump has done has really been incredible. Nobody expected in 9 months that Operation Warp Speed would create a vaccine. Nobody expected we would have the unemployment rate down to below 7%. As long as we just allow our businesses to operate, that's the single most important thing, Connell. I mean, I can't insist that enough, that you can't make up for shutting down commerce and business by writing checks to people. It doesn't work.
Before we go, just can you tell me when that conversation took place, the most recent one with the president? I only ask because Lindsey Graham came out of the White House today sounding pretty optimistic about stimulus.
This was, it was actually shortly before the election. So I haven't actually had a chance to talk to the president since the election. He knows my views. I've been strongly against it, but he also is he understands the logic of this, that paying people more unemployment benefits than working is a really bad idea. He gets a lot of credit, by the way, for not agreeing to those $600 a week benefits. We would not have a 7% unemployment rate if he had allowed that to happen. He does feel strongly in giving small businesses some relief. And, I wouldn't have a big problem with that if we extended that PPP program.
Right. Okay, Steve, thank you. Good discussion on all of this. We'll see how it plays out probably in the next few days. It's been going on for so long, but it seems like something is close to happening. Steve Moore, President.